So you want to learn how to use Blender within the past year or two, especially after the the cough cough sneeze sneeze and whatever was going around. People didn't have a lot to do, so a lot of people picked up Blender, and I'm seeing more than ever people just putting their work up online. There's a huge boom in what is it there? The back rooms. I noticed everybody's making a back room, which is actually fairly simple. We're gonna do something a little bit different though today. We're going to DerekDumas.com here. Go into Blender and Tools. We are going to be learning how to make this. Obviously not the Steam, but right here. And we're going to show you how to go ahead and texture it. We are going to be using text tools, which I've used in my previous tutorials, how to make rust skins. If you haven't been able to get it to work, that's what we're going to do. And we're actually going to do it in the latest version of Blender. So you can either go into download Blender, because, you know, 3.2 is here, or what I would recommend, I was kind of against it before, and it does use a little bit more processing power, Blender 3.2 in the Steam page. So how you get that is after you click on store page, it's free, you know, you download it. Once it's downloaded, it might not be right at 3.2, so you're going to want to right click. Go down to properties if it's not at 3.2, betas, 3.2 stable. And that should be the largest one that's available. So that's the most, or notice the most stable ones are on here. And then I believe they have an unstable version. No, they do not. Okay, well, here we go. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to launch Blender. Like I said, you're going to need text tools. And what text tools is going to do is it's going to help us texture make everything a lot easier when it comes to texturing. However, though, we are going to need to learn the basics. First thing you're going to want to do is notice the windows here. When you start it up, you're going to see this scene right here. Right here, this is basically your layout screen. You can get a lot of stuff done. Up here is your scene collection, so right here is an object. That's this cube. Object, camera, camera. And it's good to go ahead and start naming them above beforehand. Down here is your properties, and then your toolbar for this is your viewing of properties for whatever tool you choose on this bar. So these two go together right here. Another thing that you have is sculpting, UV editing, texture paint, shading, animation. We're not going to really be doing any animations or rendering or compositing. This is just going to be how to make a model. So with that being said, you are going to need to know how to use Blender. Now this is a cube. Let's break down real quick what's making up this cube. So first things first, when you select an object, you can then press tab, which will switch between up here in the top left-hand corner. There's edit mode and object mode. Object mode allows you to select objects. There's a lot of things that you can do in object mode that you can't do in edit, and vice versa. So you want to, if you're ever questioning, hey, what mode am I in? The dead giveaway is just the toon shader going around here. And when you hit tab, you'll notice, you know, these things. Now, three things make up a polygon. You have your vertexes or your points, which are these right here. When you have two or more points, you can connect them together using a line. And then when you have three or more sides and they're connected together, you can fill it in. And that creates a face, which then that creates a polygon. And then you have multiple polygons, which make up your models. A good way, if you're not sure what's what, you can jump. I believe right here, there's a little cheat sheet for all that you can collect on, point, vertex, face, and then a, quick little hotkey thing. Again, you don't need to sign up or anything like that for this. What I do ask, though, is if you're finding this very, informative, hit subscribe. It really does help out. It doesn't cost you a thing. So that just basically tells you these two. I'm going to be adding more to the site as well. So right here, the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to navigate. And I'm holding down middle mouse button here. Just kind of rotating and around. If I want to pan, I go to the area that I'm at. I hold shift and then middle mouse button. And that'll bring me up and down. If I want to move in, I'll scroll up, scroll out, zooms out. You can also hold Alt, and with middle mouse button, you can go to the right, the left, and that throws it right on going into, there you have your orthographic and perspective mode. Orthographic is kind of flat on, so you can see exactly X, Y, Z. And how you know where XYZ is if you look up in the top right-hand corner, your Z-axis goes up and down. X-axis goes left and right, and then back and forth would be your Y, or whichever way you're viewing it from. But a good indicator is if you hit this up in the right-hand corner, the Y, then you're looking down the Y-axis. X, you're looking down the X-axis. Z, now you're looking it down from the top. So middle mouse button, when you do that, should break right out of it. Unless you hit 5. And if you hit numpad 5, you're going to be stuck in there. Which, I mean, it does give some pretty funky looking things. But if you hit numpad 1, it'll bring you looking down the Y. Numpad 3 will have you looking down the X. And then looking down the Z would be numpad 7. And then the bottom would be numpad 9, because now we're looking at it from the bottom. Good. Now that we have a handle on how to move this, you can hit Shift and Control too to zoom in and out. Now let's say you zoom in and it's getting tight and you can't really, it's jumping real quick. You're going to want to choose your object and press Shift and C. And it doesn't matter what object you press, but it'll jump right to that center point. Shift C. Shift and C. Boom. Zooming in too much. See, I'm really hitting that scroll wheel. It's not doing much. Shift and C. Another thing too is if you want to get into first person mode, Shift and tilde, which is located next to your number 1. Then I'm pressing W to go forward, A to go to my left, D to go to, it's like first person fly mode in a video game. Okay. Get used to doing that. Pressing E will bring you up and Q will bring you down. It makes things a little bit, but if you want to go ahead and you're far away and you want to choose a specific thing, you can hit spacebar and that'll throw you right on top of it. It's a good way to navigate around areas, and in case you're getting, see, this is kind of getting funky here. So if I hit Shift and C, boom. So if you do use the tilde, you definitely want to use Shift and C. Alright, so while you're in selection mode, or even edit mode, if you hit W, you can change your selection type. Which right here, if you drag, you can choose boxes, and whatever the box touches, it'll select. Otherwise, just use left mouse button. If you're selecting objects, if you hold Shift, you can select multiple objects. Same works with Control, except Control, oh, same does not work with Control. But if you choose a vertex by hitting Tab and then the number 1, it changes it to vertex mode. So we're going to select 3 vertexes here. We're going to look around, and if you hit Z, and then material or wireframe, you can then see through it, which is great if you're trying to look down on the edge. Oh, that's not the one. There we go. Notice how when I select that, it selects everything that was behind it too. Whereas if we hit Alt and Z, which changes it from the shader mode into this, it only selects what we saw there. So Alt and Z you'll be using a lot. Let's hit W again. And this kind of, you can just hover over it, and wherever that circle hits, it'll hit it, which is good if you're choosing a lot of vertexes and coloring things in. So now that we have these selected, you can see all these lines have made a full circle, and it chooses the face as well. Now, if you want to choose just the lines, hit 2, numpad 2, and we can choose the lines. I'm going to hit Alt and Z, go over it, Alt and Z again, it left that back one out. Now, hit Z, go into solid mode. This will show you the solid makeup of the object. Basically, it just makes it a little bit lighter, kind of gives a fade in, whereas if we jump into wireframe and it's Alt and Z. So, solid, like, basically, these two are essentially the same. Material will show you the material, and then rendered will bring up the rendering with all the shading and, you know, your normal maps, all that fun stuff. Again, I'm going to be adding on to that list at derekdumas.com, so by the time this tutorial comes out, there'll be a full one that you can just print up, put it next to your computer. I definitely would appreciate it if people subscribe. Again, it goes a long way. All right, so now that I'm done talking about subscribing and we want to get into things, we now have our first model, which is actually a primitive model. And these primitive models, let's do Shift C, are what make up the objects that you want to have. So if we hit Shift and D, we then duplicate whatever polygon cluster, or right here model that we have. Oh, if I hit right mouse button, it jumps back to wherever. So we're going to hit Shift and D, right mouse button throws it right back into the center, and then I can just move it out more. Now, say you want to get this directly on the line. When you hit Shift and D, then hit Y, and you'll see the Y-axis start to glow. And if you want a specific amount or number, up here you can click this little, what is it? Yeah, the magnet for grid snapping. So Shift and D, hit Y, look at that. So I mean, it's little things like this that'll make your life a little bit easier. I'm going to choose these two, and we want to delete these. So we can either hit delete, and I'm going to hold Shift, or you can hit X, and it asks you if you want to delete. I can't tell you how many times I have deleted something and said, oh no, I didn't want to do that. Luckily, Control and Z is your friend. It'll undo it. So we're going to get rid of these. Make sure there's nothing else in here. All right, right click. So when you hit Tab 1 on your not your numpad, on your the top of your keyboard next to the tilde, chooses your vertexes. 2 chooses your lines, and 3 chooses your faces. Now, if you hit Alt and Z, it's great for faces, but say you want to get these faces around here, the back end. And we're going to go into solid, and then we can hit, so these are glowing, these are not, these have not been chosen. They have not been the chosen polygons. There we go. Be careful when you delete, because when you delete a vertex, if you hit X on it and vertices, it's going to delete any of the connecting lines that connect to that vertex. So if you were to hit this line and you hit X and deleted the vertices, it would take these down except for these two. So let's go ahead and jump right into the extra part of it. We're going to hit Tab. What I would suggest you do now at this point is we're going to install our add-ins, and we're going to need to hit Edit, Preferences, Add-ons. First add-on's already in there. It's called Loop Tools, and it's built right into 3.2. It's built into pretty much all of them. just check it off. And what that's going to do is it's just going to make our life easier, because we'll be going through the loop tools menu soon enough. The second thing that you'll want to do is, if you jump onto DerekDumas.com and then hover over Blender Tools and go into Tools, hit Text Tools, and it's going to bring you up to the latest version of Text Tools, which is the master version. Scroll down. Yep, right here. So you're going to want to scroll down to Download Text Tools from Blender Master. Click on that, and we're going to install that so that we at least have it. So Edit, Preferences, and this is a fix for all my previous tutorials. It will work, and we're going to hit Install. I just kept mine right in downloads because I love putting everything all over the place, and yeah. So click on Text Tools Master, install add-on, UV Text Tools. This is our primitive box. Boxes are great. This cube is bad. You want to delete this cube. It's ritual. I know the cube didn't do anything to anybody, but you want to delete it. Now we're going to want to add something. So Shift and A, and we're going to bring in a cube that we like. There, that one's better. Okay, so now that we have the better cube, we want to go ahead and see, down here is our materials. And what our materials are made up of is they have basic shaders, or principled BSDF. And this is used by like Pixar, or has been used by Pixar. I think it was, not positive, correct me in the comments below, but I think they were the ones that created it back in the day. And that does things like subsurface color. Let's go into material view. Roughness, if you bring down the roughness, that means it's not rough, it's smooth. I don't know why they don't call it smoothness, but if you see smoothness maps, it means roughness. You have metallic. You can give it kind of a metallic, shiny metal look. It's also great for being used as mirrors. And there's just, you can go through these. Sheen kind of gives it a little bit more glistening. There's clear coat, which kind of makes it look like it has a... Here, let's bring the metallic down quite a bit. So clear coat kind of makes it look like it has that clear coating. But we're not even going to really be using that too much, because we're going to be plugging in our own maps after. And that's what Text Tools is going to allow us to do. It's going to allow us to use these at a more advanced level without really having to blow our minds. So now that we have this, we're going to hit Tab, and there's a couple different things that we can go on from here. So if we hit 3, and I hit W, I'm still in circle mode. So I'm going to hit W again, W again, W. There we go. If you hit 3 and click on a side, when you press E, you're going to extrude it. And what that'll do is it'll throw in another layer or level from depending on where you press it in. Now keep in mind, you always want to go out. If you go in, these lines, you're going to have 2 sets of lines here. See it? And that's going to cause you problems. So extrude is for exactly that. The only way that this doesn't happen, here we're going to hit G, and I'm going to hit Shift and Tab again because... So I'm going to hit E to extrude it. And you don't want anything to go over each other. So S to scale, and I'm going to bring that down. And then I'm going to hit E again. And I'm going to right mouse button, and then S to scale, and I'm going to bring that down. Because that made another square, but then I brought it down. Then I can hit E, bring that in, and let's hit Alt-Z. So now you can see you're kind of bending around with things. Hit 2 to go into edge mode. If you hit Z, solid. Actually, wireframe's better. There we go. You can see this glowing right here. Choose an edge, hit Control and B, and that bevels it. If you use your scroll wheel up, it adds more cuts to it. Scroll wheel down, not so much. And then to edit it further, after you left mouse button, just click on bevel, and you can change all the different settings. It's fun to play around with it there. We're going to keep it as is, though. So it's good just to kind of mess around with all this, but today we got to make a bridge. So I'm going to hit tab, go back into object mode. I'm going to hit X, delete this, shift A, and we have a plane, cube, circle, UV, torus. These are your primitives. There, you can, I believe you can actually just put one single point. No, you cannot put one single point in. Crap. Oh well, not that we really need it. So we're going to add a plane, and we're going to keep it as is, and we're going to hit this, and we're going to scale, and we're going to hit Shift and Z. So now that it's only going to blow it up on the X and Y axis, it's not going to go up at all, which you're not going to really be able to tell for a plane, but for something like a cube, you will be able to tell. Shift A, mesh, cube, because as you scale it up, well, we have that cube just basically blowing up at, you know, very proportionate. Scale, Shift and Z. It's going to keep it at its height. Same thing if you were to hit X. It would shut off. Here, S, Shift, X. It'll only go up and then out on the Y axis, or down, whichever. So get used to just moving around Blender, and when you are ready, well, you know what? Let's get rid of, well, we'll keep these for right now. Now we're going to add a plane. And this is good for showing the next option that we're going to use. When you hit tab and hit, you see this whole everything start up, hit 1. If you hold shift, we can go around. If I don't hold shift and I just select it, say we got these selected, and I choose this, the rest of them are going to jump off. Control Z will jump back to it. But if we do this, shift and then control, it's going to try to find the closer, it's going to create a path when you hit shift and control. And by hitting this, because both sides are equal, it's going to send a line down both sides, a selection line. And what that'll do is once all those are selected, we now have our face selected. We're going to hit R to rotate, and we're going to rotate along the X axis. And we're only going to do it 90 degrees. Now, you're going to want to learn your angles too. Around the X axis that we're looking at right here. So here's our x-axis that we were looking down. We rotated that down and it went this way. Same thing with your Z. If you rotate along the Z, it's going to rotate around up and down, and then Y will swing it up and down as well as X. When you're looking down from the top of it, here's your 90 degrees. 90 and 90 is 180. And then half of 90 is 45. So if you only, those are, you know, the main ones that I use. I use 45, 90, 180. And that's good for totally turning things completely around. So now that we have this, what we're going to do is we want to go ahead and we're going to hit S to scale it, but we're only going to be scaling it around here. And then we're going to type 3. So we're going to scale it on the X 3 times. So it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we scaled it from the middle. Now say you only want one side to be chosen. Choose whatever you want. Hit G, not scale, because if you scale it, and then on the X. But if we want to keep it uniform and we want to go one more over, G, hit Shift and Tab, and then do G on X, and it'll snap it in. Remember, Shift and Tab is your friend. Now that we have this put up on its side, we're going to have to go ahead and we are going to make the first part of our bridge. Because we can always scale it up and then do our unwrapping there. So I'm going to hit Tab. I'm going to hit 1 so that I can see the points. And then I'm going to hit Control and R and go to slice that in half. But then I'm going to use my scroll wheel to bring it up a few times. And what are we at now? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alternately, you can also just type in 1, 0. So we're going to do 10 right there. And then you can move it up or down. I'm just going to hit right mouse button so that it goes right into the default. Number of cuts, 10. Beautiful. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control and R. And we got, actually that doesn't look too bad at all. We're going to do 6 cuts. And I'm going to right click and then hit that. So we now have this. I'm going to then press 3. And we can choose this and hold Shift. Or now is a good time to hit W so that you can just go right along the edge. And then holding Shift, we're going to go up. Doesn't look too bad. X, we're going to then delete the faces. And that has deleted all the faces right there. So now we have, it looks like a little retro M or a sideways E. We're going to add something called a modifier. And what a modifier does is it does anything from changing the properties of an actual model to messing with textures, creating particles. There's a lot of different modifiers that are there, and the modifier is down here with the properties, and it's a little wrench. And we're going to solidify this. And we are going to, I believe this is 6 meters across. So we are going, for our thickness, we are going to do 3. There we go. Not bad. And we kind of have the top part of our bridge here. Doesn't look too bad. Actually, we could probably do it a little bit smaller, but that's all right. This isn't going to be too bad at all. Now, if I choose these right here, if you hit Z wireframe, you can kind of see it a little bit better. Choosing this, and we'll choose up top right here a little bit. Oh, nothing can be chosen because it's still just a plane. And the reason for that is because right here, we didn't apply the modifier. Now, you won't be able to apply the modifier when it's in edit mode, so you have to hit Tab. And you can either hit Control and A, or you can hit this little button right here and hit Apply. So even though this is selected, there's really not much we can do with it. This isn't bad. This is our bare bones base. This is what we're going to use. So we have a 6x3 with these cut out. These are nice and even. We can make these our little abatements. And what we're going to do is we are now going to hit Apply. All right, it's been applied. Now what we want to do is we can probably clean this up a little bit, but I like to wait the very last minute just in case we want to modify things, because we want to merge some of these lines together to make one larger face. Because here's what's going to happen. If we hit A, U, unwrap, and then go into UV editing, it's going to look pretty much exactly like this. And these are all the faces. We can choose this right here. And it's, as you can see, we're going to hit right here. This is UV sync. So when I choose this, it's going to show there. So this one is going to use the same as that. That's all well and good, but that does not work well for game ready models. So we will actually have to add edges to this, but we can usually do that later on. So let's go right here. I'm going to hit 2, W, and then I'm going to hit X, and then I'm going to dissolve the edges. And by dissolving the edges, now I have a larger face to click on, and it kind of cleans up your model. So let's hit A, U, unwrap. Oh, we're going to do this side too. Now you want to make sure you don't hit the top one because it'll dissolve this edge as well. So right here, oh, that's why you got to hit 2. Go back into edge mode, X, dissolve edges. A, U, unwrap. Now if we hit this one right here, 3, and hit G over here, oh, G over here, that's where this one used to be. And that's where this is. We don't want that. We want them to be next to each other because as it covers over, it'll look a lot better, trust me. All right, so now that we have this, I'm going to hit Control Z a couple times and bring us right back to where we're at. Oof. Almost didn't make it there. Control Z does have a limit, but if you go into Edit, Properties, and then go into System, the number of undo spaces, I have it at 40. I believe it's 30 or 35 to begin with. You can change that. Keep in mind, each one does kind of use up your cache a little bit. So depending on how much RAM you have, depends on, yeah, what you can actually do with it. So from here, we're going to go ahead and it's a bridge. Let's put some walls up here. Not walls, but, you know, yeah, walls, guardrails, things, stuff. I'm going to hit Control and R, and I'm just going to scroll once up, and I'm going to hit left mouse button, and then I'm going to hit right mouse button. And we're going to hit Alt and Z to make sure that went all the way around. It did. Awesome. So now that that's done, I'm going to hit S to scale, and we're going to scale it on the Y. And we're going to go by 0.5, I'm sorry, Shift minus 0.5. All right. Oh, so we got to go up. I'm hitting 2. 3, nope. So we're going to do 2.5, enter. And from there, let's jump back into our layout mode, hit tab. Control R, bring it up, boom. Okay. So now that we hit Control R and we did that, we're going to hit S to scale along the Y axis. And it looks like it's at 2.5. So I physically typed in 2.5 there. So now that we have that, I'm going to hit W a few times, go back to the manual selection and hit 3 for the faces. And as you start to go in a row and you press Shift, hold down Control and go all the way to the end and click on that. And it'll do those. Same with this. If you do 1, this should go all the way down, and then hit Control while you're holding Shift, and now we have all those selected. Let's hit E now to extrude it. We're going to bring that up. It's snapped in. That's not a big deal. Shift and Tab, and we're going to hit the G button. and bring that down. Now it's kind of moving all around, so I'm going to lock it into Z by hitting Z. And that doesn't look too bad. Yeah, it's pretty good. So the next thing we are going to want to do is we are going to want to add some edges to here. And we're going to want something for the abatements. But before we do anything, it's smart to go into File, Save As, Tut, Save as tut.blend. And the reason why we're doing that is because, yeah, if we screw up and we can't go past Control Z, or we make something that we don't like. Now that we have the setup of all our polygons, well, we're going to need more than that. But we have a rough idea as to what our bridge is going to look like. We can go ahead, we can add extra G, and then on the Z, okay, so now that we have that extended down, we're going to hit here with the left mouse button holding Shift down at the bottom, because we want to go from directly diagonal, because it's going to follow the selection path to where we're putting it, shortest distance. So we're going to hit E on the X, and we're going to extrude on the X out 0.5, half. That's way too much. So press backspace to 0.25. That doesn't look bad at all. That's actually pretty good. Same thing with this side and then the opposite, because these are the edges right here. We're going to want these to connect to something else. And we're going to do this one right here. Whereas the middle one's going to have it completely going around. We're going to extrude this by 0.25 on the X. So minus 0.25. There we go. And with these sides, we're going to extrude on the Y axis, E and then Y. 0.25. Nope. Shift minus 0.25. And then same thing right here. And then EY 0.25. All right. Let's move these out a little bit more. Alt and Z, get back into that view aspect. We're going to select this, and then we're going to select this, and then we are going to scale on the X. And see how it's kind of stretching it out? We don't want that. So the other thing that we can do to not have it stretch is just select one. So we're going to do numpad 1, select one at a time. G to grab it on the X. I'm going to hit G and then X, and then we'll do, because it's going into the negative, -2. -2 is good. Which would make this one over here be on the X 2. Symmetry is everything when you're building these types of things. We're going to bring these abatements down a little bit more though. Actually, let's see what this looks rendered. Let's select our light. We're going to do G on the X, G on the Z, and then G on the Y. Kind of bring it over, see what we're working with here. I mean, it looks like one of those low-hanging bridges that would go in Florida, but I want it to be a little bit bigger. So select this object again, hit Tab, 1, Alt and Z. Now that we can see these, we know we're in our X-ray mode. And that did everything but these ones on the top. So here's a problem. I'm just using left mouse button covering over that. If we do this one, and we do G on the Z, that will bring down this part, but I only wanted to bring down the abatements. So we can either do that and select those, or we can do Control Z and then hit 2 to choose just our line mode, and that'll choose just the lines instead of the faces, because we were in face mode. G on the Z, and we're gonna go -2. It's not bad. All right, so now that we did that, we're gonna file save as, and we will do tut 1033. Save. Good to put AM PM. I want this one to be a little bit more rounded, so I'm gonna hit Control R, and I'm gonna bring it up about yay much. Hit that. Now I can slide it, but again, right mouse button to put it dead center in the middle. I'm gonna hit 1. And we're gonna do the same thing. Here, if you do this, you can do the diagonal thing with Control and Shift, so it doesn't take as long. We're gonna keep these flat. These are gonna be the only ones here. Control Z, or I'm sorry, Control Shift left mouse button. Control Shift left mouse button. So by knowing that, we can just hit one edge, Control Shift. This is the face that we're going to be putting out. That, Control Shift, same thing. Or if you hit 3, you can just do it that way. It doesn't matter which way you want to do it, but we're going to scale this along the X because it's scaling from the center point right here out. And that'll make it symmetrical. And I'm looking up at the top. We're going to do 1.5. But once again, scale on the X, then scale on the Y, bring this down. That, I think, definitely looks a lot better. And we just need to add on a few more things here. Let's hit Control R, bring it up once, Control R, and then what we want to do here, just so we get a better view, is we're going to select everything. From this one until where this bottom part meets it. And then we can either hit this little proportional editing, or you can just hit the O button. And G, and then Z, and you can bring it up. Now, this might look exactly like what the other one's doing, but if you use your scroll wheel, kind of give it like a little arch, or you can have it sink down, but I like the medieval kind of goes up and over type deal. The little details like that that start to add on to the fun stuff of your models. All right. Another thing that I want to do here is we're going to hit 3, Control and Shift, face, or Shift. And now that we chose those two, we're going to press E to extrude on the Y, scale it by hitting S on the Y axis. We'll do 1.1. Shift, Control, bam. All right. So here's the problem with this. If we go ahead and we extrude it, it's going to start cutting into this right here. Because this is already hugging here. Shift and tilde so we can kind of move. Scroll wheel, bring it down so it goes slower. It's going to push into that, causing problems. So we got to think of a whole nother shape or a way that we want to do this. And what I'm thinking is, I don't know what I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking? I know what I'm thinking. Let's just choose the bottom lines here. Shift, Control, left mouse button, G on the X. No, S on the X, L on the X. That doesn't look too bad right now. We're going to have to start beveling surfaces soon anyways. So you want to start thinking about how you're going to be colorizing this. And that'll give you an idea as to, you know, what you're going to be using. Let's save this file, save. And we're going to hit this, Control and Shift, this, Control and Shift. So I can do that twice or just hit one, same thing, hit down at the bottom. Just basically go down a row. Same with this, 1, 2, E to extrude, and then S to scale, and then Y on the Y axis, and we're just going to poke that out. Just a hermit budgeon. We're going to hit Control R, and we're going to bring up we'll do 2. Yeah, we'll do that because we can always bring them down. Right mouse button. And then with this, because it'll push it out a little bit, Alt Z. G on the Z. And then down at the bottom, it's going to look like it pushes it out and then goes back up. Kind of like a little coffin shape here. Because if we go G on the Z, it'll bring it back up to, I think that's where it was. But notice how the contour of it kind of pokes out a little bit, which is good. That's what we want. So we have that there. Now we're going to use, well, not just yet. Let's hit Control R right here. And with that, we're going to hit 3, Shift, left mouse button, Alt Z. You want to go right directly across, but obviously there's enough that we can count to right there. And they're side by side. When you do that, right mouse button, loop tools, and bridge it. And that will throw it right into there. Gives it a little bit more detailed. Let's jump into rendered. Of a baby. G on Z. See what, oh, G on the X. We can add another object down at the bottom, like a lantern hanging on either side of these. Let's give it, because I got the theme that I want. I want like a bluish green swamp mystical, I don't know, some fairyland looking crap. Now this is going below the surface here. If we hit G on the Z, oh, Shift and Tab, G on the Z. See what happens when we don't use snapping and we just kind of pulled it down. Now we're, if you go to put this into a game engine and this is your starting point, that's not good. There's ways to get around it. We can recenter it, but I'm just doing it for the sake of, yeah. So we're going to hit Shift and D after selecting the light, and then G on the Z, and then G on the X. And let's add green to this. Let's get some of our lighting down first. What am I doing wrong here? I'm having a brain fart. Derp? Oh, derp. All right. So we can make this cobblestone. Down here. So this is another perfect example of just using Control and Shift on one side so that it goes down. Shift, choose this one. There's no connection down there. Control and Shift, boom. And we're going to do the same thing over here because we want it to be all uniform all at once. Control Shift, Shift. Make sure that's the right one. Yep. Control Shift. There we go. Control and B to bevel. And I want it to be a little bit more curved than that. So if you use the mouse wheel to scroll up, we'll just do 2. Now let's jump into our UV editing. A, U, unwrap. And that's what it still is. Okay. So it thinks everything is squared. A, U. Let's do a smart UV project. Island margin none because we want some connected. That's actually not too bad. All right, let's hit Control R. We'll go in the middle here. Alt Z. Press E to extrude, and then scale it on the Y and bring it in. Bring it into about VA much. Control and Shift. Oh, Control and Z, I'm sorry. Control Shift. Nope. Because again, it's going all the way around. Control Z, Shift, and then click, and then go over here and Control Shift. There we go. Alt Z, that looks like it's going completely around in a circle. Do the same over here. All right, so now let's get a look at both of these. Control B to bevel. The scroll wheel, you can scroll up and down, add as many cuts as you want. The more you do, the more polygons it is. We're gonna do that. Left mouse button, click. Hold Shift. So G on the Z. There. Now we're bringing that down. Alt and Z. We're going to choose just that one. Scale on the X. Bring it out just a little bit more. Let's go to Material Preview. Let's check to see what happens when we add an array modifier now. That's cool. I like that. That shows me that. Oh, we can have gold trim. Yes. All right, cool. So let's exit out of the array modifier by exiting out. This one, Shift, choose those two in the middle. Scale on the Y. And then Control B to bevel. Go to 3. Tab.
without pressing shift. Now we hold shift, alt Z. Here, let's go into solid mode so we can see it better. That looks good. And then we're going to scale this along the Y too, kind of bring that out just a little bit more. All right. Now we got to choose what we want our materials to be and add them in there. So first things first, we know we want cobblestone up top. And let's jump into texture paint. I'm sorry, UV editing. Hit A, U, smart UV project. Yes, have everything connected. Not bad, it's getting there. A lot of these are kind of choppy. Yeah. File, and we'll save it as tut text. Now that we have our lighting in some areas and we can get a better view, I'm basically going to call this good to go. And there's some things, well, some beveling that we won't be able to do with all this geometry in there. Just the way that Blender is and the way that it cuts and looks for other vectors. Or lines, I should say. Lines, vectors, all of it. Basically, it's origin. That origin. That geometry to origin. There we go. That's pretty much right dead center in the middle. Alright, I'm going to hit O, G on the Z, and then I'm going to scroll this way down. Oh, Control Z, Alt and Z, hold Shift, do that again. Make sure we got everything here. And then G, Shift and Tab on the Z. Right mouse button. We still got to get these. Do one more. W until we get the selection box. All right, let's take a look, see how this is doing. G on the Z. This is one of those that we're going to want to write down. On the Z, I 0.1. No, we're going down minus 0.1. Let's hit Tab. So it's going down by 0.1. And what we're going to do here is we are going to go back into layout. Modeling, you can use the same tools, but we're just using the hotkeys. Those are universal. If you go into modeling into here, it gives you modeling tools that further blend and mesh and mush the model. But we're doing solid modeling, so it'll throw some things off. You could use some symmetry, but you're going to be using a lot of... It's a whole nother way to use Blender. We'll get into that in another tutorial. Alright, so with all these selected files, save as, texture temporary, new. Now that we have those selected, we're going to come down. I'm going to hold Control. Origin. Alright, hit Alt-Z again. Choose this one. Come down to here. Come back up to here. Like a fun little game. Alt-Z. Holding Control. So you want to get these two sides. Son of a baby. Did I not hold Shift? Alright. Holding Shift. Oh, you know what another thing is? You can just hit A. Hit 3. Alt-Z. Yeah, I'm proud of myself there. Alright. We're going to press E, S to scale on the X. And we need only go up that much. We are going to choose this. Hit 3. We might as well get this all done now. Alright. Nothing else to do except for... These look pretty even for the most part. But we need to clean this up. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to... Let's hit 1. No, 2. We'll start off down here. And then X, dissolve edges. And we'll just go up around. And you don't want to hit one of these side edges. Be careful you don't do that. If you do a circle, check this out. Dissolve edges. It starts creating those scary triangles. Sometimes you'll be left with a triangle. Let's see if I can do it. It's all the way... Yeah, see, okay, this one didn't do it. I lucked out. But sometimes you'll be stuck with that little extra piece of geometry that you can't get rid of. And it's because you selected it in a certain way. And the computer kind of said, okay, if we do this moving forward, this is the way we got to do things. I believe... And you don't want to delete an edge like this, because if you do, it's going to end up flattening the whole thing. So you want edges that share the same face, or lines that share the same face. I'm holding shift, going down, boom, boom. Dissolve edges. I would say do the x-ray, but if you look through, you're going to end up seeing this geometry too. This, for the most part, I think is pretty flat, isn't it? Dissolve these edges. Dissolve those edges. Dissolve those edges. Oh. Starting to get hairy. I'm not holding shift yet, but now I am. Dissolve those edges. Go right up over here. Oh no. Now that's an angle. Oh, it was supposed to be an angle. That's alright. We can make it an angle again. And if you want this to like bend in, well, we don't. It'll go straight up. Oh no. I got a bad feeling. Okay. Right here. Yeah, let's keep that. Because we'll just make that another color. Another color. We'll make it another texture. Actually, that's not a lie. We are going to make it another color. We got to ID map the thing. X, dissolve edges. Oh, no, no, no. And every polygon or face that you see here is going to have... What am I doing? Hit 2, 1, WWW. I'm going to hit one here, one here. Oh. Control and shift. 2, W. Screw it. Let's just do it the way that we were doing it. There. We don't want to take off the top part. We want to have that as trim. And we're going to dissolve edges. There we go. And now, hitting this one, I'm just holding shift. Control. Dissolve edges. Those. Let's dissolve these as well. We'll do the bottoms. And just go right around. You really got to be careful with which ones you're dissolving here. You want to look it over. As soon as you get used to it, you'll be able to fly through it, but just take your time with it. I set my undo steps to 40. I don't know what it is originally. I think it's like 30 something, but yeah, definitely in the 40s. Definitely in the 40s, definitely, yeah. Now that all those edges are dissolved, I'm going to hit 1. You're going to notice that these right here, same thing, we're going to have points. But I'm going to hit 2, X, dissolve edges, hit 1. Now this is all one solid edge. All the points are the vectors, sorry. See, as soon as this flat face goes up and is at an angle, it's not flush with each other. And if you do that, like here, pretend this is a side one. Notice how the faces are at different angles. Well, it wasn't supposed to do that. Oh, it did do something. It definitely messes with the shading, so. This is usually when I throw on some music, just kind of relax, think about what the heck I'm doing here. So we're getting all these edges. Don't want to forget the one here. And again, just dissolve them. Now here's the problem. Say we want to go ahead and we want, here, let's get rid of this too. Well, no, this will give a perfect example. Notice how we dissolve the edges up top here. We hit Control and R. The line's only going to go up to where we dissolved. If I come up here, it's not even going to choose it whatsoever. As soon as you dissolve those edges and create a new face, it's game over. So that's why I save this to the very, very end, unless I'm going to pull some magic out of my rear end there. Then yeah, that's not something that you got to think ahead of time. So until you're done, like really messing with your model, and you get it to where you like it. And also that's why I saved it too. So we'll do file, I saved underneath new, save as, texture temp new. So tut dissolve. At that point, now it's just, I know that this is going to be the one that's completely dissolved. What's going on here? Didn't I already do this? So we're going to dissolve all these edges. Let's see, X, dissolve edges. It kind of makes it flat. I'm going to hit 2, W, till I get to the box selector. And we are going to do the same. Just holding shift now, not shift and control. And anyone that was in the middle, we're just getting rid of. X, dissolve these edges. So you want to be very careful when you're dissolving your edges. I'm actually quite pleased with that. Let's see what else we can get out of here. very, very careful with those. These, I know we're not going to have a problem with these. So from here, modeling takes time. What? Why modelers get paid a bunch of money. There we go. Holding shift. Ultimately, I could have just probably done this. And then hold control and alt Z. That's what I mean. It all depends on how you blender. You can just go right through it. It depends on the method that you use. Now, this is one straight angle right here. Let's start with the bottom. Why is it? I just want this. Oh yeah, now you work. I want to leave this one because we don't want to get rid of the bottom too. Just dissolve what you need to. I really don't trust it. I'm not gonna. Can always dissolve it later. Same thing, X, dissolve edges. And this is pretty time consuming, but it does pay off in the end. Oh yeah, let's leave that bottom part because I'm indecisive. Wait a minute. Ooh, almost made a boo-boo there. We want this to be, this is going to be one of the abatements. Or abutments? Abatement? Abutment? Dissolve the edges. Let's hit 9. It's either 3 or 9 for looking head on. Oh, that's why you save frequently. That is so disappointing. Oh well, we can fix it. So let's fix this. Now, we're going to hit 3, choose this, X, we're going to delete the faces. We're going to hit Alt Z and 2. Not Alt Z. We're going to choose this one, W, until we get to our selection, Control and Shift. And we are just going to go all the way around. We're going to leave this bottom one open, hit F. We now created a face. And if we hit Control R, it won't do anything. It's the same as dissolving edges if you add faces. So keep that in mind as well. Oh, that's what doesn't feel right. And one. Control. Alright, we have all our faces dissolved. Our polygon count just dropped tremendously. Which is good. That's exactly what we want. So now we're left with this hunk of rock that we need to texture. Get into emission shaders and stuff like that later, but let's start off with just choosing select individual things and creating a texture map. So what we're going to do here is we're going to file, save as, texture, time, new. There we go. And we have a whole bunch of saved blend files, which is good. I'd rather be able to go back at some point in time, and they're really not that heavy. They're only a few megabytes. So you start loading in textures. But let's go right with what we have right here. First thing we're going to need to do is we're going to have to hit A for all. Let's go, we're going to hit tab. Layout, tab, Alt Z. We're going to go into solid mode. Alright, so UV editing. This is what our UV map looks like now. Isn't it beautiful? I can totally make heads and tails of it. Just look at that. How could you not understand that? Especially if we unwrap it. We can either do a smart UV project, which will give us a lot of, I mean, if we make this 2 or 4K, we would be alright. The off part is the model size or the file size is going to be huge. But, so right here, let's, we have it on synchronize. Let's hit 3. That's this one. There's the little part that we don't like. We can start moving it around and kind of stretching them out. We could start to unwrap this model. Oh, hey. 2. Select this, X, dissolve edges. Oh my God, right when you think you're done. And every time you dissolve an edge, you have to remap everything. So now we got to get into UV editing. God, I hate UV editing. All right. We have to wrap and make some seams. We gotta manually unwrap this. Which, not a big deal. I'm not gonna get into the explanation of how it's done. I'm gonna hit 3 on this one. 3, these are all where the seams are. We want the, No, just this one. I'm gonna select these. And we only need one place for this to fold over. So I'm gonna hit Control E, and we are going to mark the seam. And that just, every place where there's a line is going to be a whole cutout. So we want this to be cut off from that part of the model there. We want this to be cut off completely separate from everything else. We want it to be all connected at some point where it folds together. And I'm gonna say one of these back edges would be a great place to unwrap it. So if we hit A, U, unwrap, and then we choose these are the only flat edges that we had, but they're all cut off from each other. So right here, we're gonna hit 2, no, we're gonna do it right here. And then E, oh, Control Z, Control Z. We're just gonna choose these right here, Control and E, clear these seams. And now we're gonna hit A, U, unwrap. And this right here is now basically going to be tied into, you can see where these are all connected. We're gonna do the same over here. Whoop, whoop. Looks like the only one selected. Control E, mark the seam. Same with these down here. All right, let's go up here, hit 2. Control E, clear the seam. So now it's kind of getting them. We can scale them up as needed if we feel as though we need to. But the red is cutting itself off from the rest of the model, which means these bottom ones, let's hit 3. This will be the bottom. Control and E, we're going to mark that seam. And then what we're going to do right here is we're going to hit 2, Control E, we're going to clear that. So now that it's only cutting this part out. Let's go down here. We're going to choose this whole object. Holding Shift. I'm going to zoom in. Control E, mark the seam. So this is going to be folded over. Where's a good place? So we're just going to mark these, everything else. Right here. Oh, Control and E, clear seam. Oh, I'm going to set the origin down here. My apologies. So now because these aren't selected and this is cut out right here, it's going to render this as one big face, as though these aren't even here. I mean, the polygons are still going to be there, but it's going to be connected. A to select everything, and we're going to unwrap everything. This bottom part, this is a whole object, so that red line means it's going to be completely cut off down at the bottom here. We're going to Control E, we're going to mark the seam, and this is all going to be one face right here. Because the angles don't matter with the textures. It all comes down to where you basically say, hey, I want this to be one color, or I don't want it to be one color. And I say color, texture essentially, but we need to color map it. So you'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes. Control and spacebar, you can jump into a bigger menu here. Control E, we're going to mark that seam. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is all one texture right here. So Control and E, clear seam. Clear the seams right here. This is essentially going to be cut out from it, but right here, here, these, because this will be flat. Control E, clear the seams. I'm guessing that's this right here. Oh, totally wrong. So let's choose this, Control E, mark seam, A, U, unwrap. Hey, look at that. That folds out into there. Let's do 2. Control E. We're going to mark the seam. Let's make it up in a corner, actually, where a player probably isn't going to see it. Here, Control. It's flat to her. But, again, we can kind of mess with it after we know what we're doing. Same with this. This is all going to be... No, is it going to be one thing, though? I really don't know. When you're clearing these seams, marking these seams, you can also dissolve the edges further, go over any geometry that you may have missed. We're going to mark the seam. Alright, Control E and M to mark the seam. We're going to want to unfold it. This is going to be separate. Control E, clear seam. We're going to clear this seam as well. Clear that seam. That will then wrap around this way. That folds out like that, and then it's cut off. Let's see what that looks like. Unwrap. Hit 3. Yeah, we're definitely going to want our textures a little bit bigger. Let's hit Alt and Z. And whatever way you're comfortable or most comfortable with, let's hit Control. setting this up. That's all that matters. Control E. Oh. Okay, let's hit W 3 times. And holding control. Here, control Z twice. Shh. Oh, that's why we gotta hit 2. Control E. We're gonna mark that seam. Although, I got a feeling that we don't even need this seam. Unwrap. Nope, because these fold right out. These are the sides. So because, just think you're, like if you were to take an X-Acto knife and just cut it out. All of a sudden these lines don't matter anymore. It's gonna make, yeah. Okay. Next thing we want to do, Alt Z. Let's select this stuff. Or we can do, actually, here.
Control Shift.
Look at that. Actually, I can see that being like a thing of wood here. So I think I am gonna keep. Okay, hit 2. Get these out of here. Oop. Alright. Control E. Mark the seam. And we're just gonna do the same thing with this one here. Control. You could do a smart UV project, but it's not going to come out the way that you think it is, I promise you. Which I know, it sucks. But unfortunately, sometimes you do the hard work on this, it definitely pays off. Alright, there we go. We're going to hit 2, Alt Z, and let's just, there we go. Mark that seam. We're going to clear this seam so that it's all one. Wait. I'm going to mark that seam because we want this to be completely different. That folds out and goes around. Control E, clear the seams on those. Goes around, folds out, and we can get rid of this one too. Again, if you had this box going around like this, and all of them were sliced off, you'd have different boxes. But if you keep one of them connected by not making a seam cut, it'll essentially this is one piece of paper now instead of two over here. And because we don't have the tops, basically it's just one line disconnected from everything else. Control E, clear the seam. All right, let's continue to cut all this out here. And we're almost done. Control E, mark seam. Right here, we are going to clear the seam. We're going to clear this seam down here. Oh, I missed these. Dissolve those edges. Again, when you're unwrapping, this really gives you a good chance to take a look at your model. All right, Alt Z, let's go ahead and look at these. Control E. These can be connected. Mark the seam here. Clear the seam here so that that opens up, that's folded out. This will be marked here. Oh, I'm sorry, that'll be cleared there. That one will stay cleared. So that's one big, so that's essentially one there. Connected to that, that'll fold out. Down here, we're going to clear this one. Mark that seam, so that's one that folds over into here, that unfolds up here. We're going to mark that, no. That's cut here, and that's where it's cut. So okay, that's a lot better. I mean, it's still going to be a little stretched out, but we'll be able to work with it. Not bad. There we go. So now we have cleaned up the model, and now we just need to get it ready for using Mixer. But essentially, we have created a bridge. It's coming along. Very happy with it. And we are going to file, save as. Now has themes. .blend. And again, you know, it doesn't look much different from when we first had it, which is good. That's what you want. I mean, when we had it with all the extra polygons, now our polygon count has dropped substantially. We still have this here because it's curved, but at least we know if we put this and color it, it's going to be one texture, and that's what matters. You know, the more you do UV editing, the more you'll get used to it. I might come in and make more changes. Who knows? Let's see where this tutorial takes us. So But yeah, this should be pretty straightforward. Ah, the hell with it. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, we're gonna go into UV editing. Oh. There, we'll get rid of that seam too. All right. Not bad at all. You really want to make this is a great time to go over every nook and cranny of your model. You should know exactly what every spot is on your model. It's your model, you made it. Dissolve edges. We are going to mark this seam and see if it helps us out any. No, it does not. But the rest does look good. So file, save. Now that we have it saved, we can get into texturing. We have our lighting so that we have a basic idea of, you know, I did that for when we were creating things, get a better look down at the bottom and whatnot. So what we want to do is, the first thing is we want to export our model. However, we're going to select this right here. We're going to select the camera and delete them. Export, and then I'm going to scale this up by 20. File, export, FBX. You can do a totally different file if you want to, and the reason why we're blowing it up so big is because when we go to texture it, if it's too small, the height map is going to start messing with the seams, and you're going to get a funky looking thing. I do at least 20 times. You can do 10, but it really doesn't matter. Now we got to choose each individual thing here. So hitting W, and then 3, I'm going to select all the sides. Okay, so now what we want to do, now that it's blown up 20 times, we're going to go into UV editing, and we're going to hit N. We have text tools in here. Let's go into baking. We're going to choose material ID. Go down to color ID. We're going to have to hit A for everything. Select that color. Now this is one texture right here. I'm going to grab this, and the underneath of the bridge is going to be a whole different texture. Not bad. I'm down with it. And that one will be blue. If we hit W 3 times, click that, Control Shift, click. Let's do that one green. And we're going to do the same over here. On that one, and you want to highlight all these. And if you want to do little bits at a time, you can. The bottom part of the abatement, do one up top here, Control Shift. This one will be yellow. Oh, we want the top to be yellow too. I'm going to hit Alt and Z, cover up that, select. Once again, doesn't look too bad. And if you need to add more colors, you can. Just put it in your color code, add an extra one. Select one here, 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 here. Do the bottom part there. Control and space bar to jump out of it. This one's going to be the gray. And you'll find yourself flying through colors pretty quickly. So I want these to actually be the same. That's good. We got 1024, padding is 4. Let's go ahead and click bake. Now the colors may look a little off, but that's not that big of a deal. Hit Control and Z, because I need this. We're going to add 7, and this one is going to be completely white. One here, Control and Shift, do it diagonal, Alt Z, so that's the only one that's been selected. Holding Shift, I'm just going to get rid of beautiful. Looks good to me. We're going to make that one white. And I know it looks like it's another color, but that's just your seam. Hit A, and now we're gonna bake it. Bring down our padding. Let's take a look, see how this came out. So what we're gonna want to do here is hit N, and up here image, save as, see desktop bridge, and color ID. Now if you download Mixer, again everything's in the description or on the website, derekdumas.com. Do a new project, bridge, tut. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a new mix after we select bridge tut. Bridge 1. And we got to start throwing our materials in here. So underneath library, import custom surfaces. Basically what you can do is underneath your C drive, we're going to right click new folder. And in this new folder, we're going to call it training. Cool. I'm going to minimize that for now. And underneath training is where you're going to want to throw all your textures. For mine, I put it in my Derek Dumas online. I'm going to start with the cobblestone, and I'm going to choose albedo, blah. Alright, next. I always do 3 because 3 is a magic number. Height 5. Yeah, make it 3. Up a little bit more. And I'm just going to name it cobblestone. You can also import other PBR textures. Just make sure you check out what their EULA is. And I'm going to create a new category called my textures. Import. Import custom surface, and we got to do these for all of them, unfortunately. Gonna go up to gold next. Albedo. Beautiful. I think I have an AO in there. I do not. Next, 3. Height is going to be 3. Goldish. Oh, right. Category, my textures. Not bad, not bad. Library. And I'm just gonna go on to, that's wood plane. All these textures I made myself. You can use them as you wish. Throw them in your games or whatever. The only thing that I ask, just, you know, hit subscribe. I do next. Same thing. 3. 3, but this is my gift to you guys. Textures, import. Oh, right. Wood. That works. Import custom surface. Surface. We're gonna do brick tiles. Next. 3. That way there's a little bit of a dip. Brick. Going to import that. After I select my category. And I think I got one more. There'll be a couple other textures in there as well. Wood floor. There we go. Next. 3x3. That one is 5. Wood plank. Import. Right, category, my textures. Sweet. So now we have these textures that we threw in there. And I'm just gonna click on the first one, second one. And all these are just getting layered on top of each other. This is a good way to actually make your own textures. Take 2, 3 different textures, kind of mess with them and create a whole nother texture. As long as it's procedural, you're good to go. So we got these. Let's go into local library. Do I have cobblestone? I do not have cobblestone. Gold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have like 7 different textures, but no big deal. So we can mess with these after. Let's assign them. Underneath setup, texture editor. The resolution is going to be 1024. And what we're going to do here is underneath material ID, we're going to go in and choose the material ID that we had. And instead of plain, we're going to choose a custom model and choose the export. We have 6. And it looks a little rough right now, but if we hit 8, then we can see we have bright pink and bright magenta. So let's start off with the wood plank, right click, add mask ID, bright magenta. The brick, color ID, what, I'm gonna hit 8. That would be the dark blue. This one. Cobblestone. We are going to choose bright yellow. Eight. Bright magenta will be the wood. And goldish, we're going to do the other blue. This one right here. wood plank. We're going to then click on this because it wasn't the one that we wanted. There we go. Let's start bringing these down a little bit. As for the cobblestone, the placement is going to be tiling. Beautiful. Repetitions, we'll do 8 by 12. We have some stretching there, not a big deal. We can get rid of that after. Let's just get the main part down. That'll actually be another tutorial. This kind of gets you into the gist of what's going on here. This brick right here. Choose that one and that one. Tiling. Repetitions. Got cobblestone. We're going to cut out height blending. But if we do want to use height blending, we can just bring up the blend radius. Preserve our details. And we're going to rotate 90 degrees. Instead of 16, we're going to do 36 by 36. Now these we would just give a different color ID. Same with this over here because these are going a certain way. Let's jump back to our wood. I'm sorry, no. Wood plank. And the wood plank is not procedural, so I'll have to fix that. This brick we're also going to have underneath the bright green. Gold. We're just doing this one right here. Cobblestone. Take it off from that one. Jump back into the gold. We're going to cut out height blending. Bring up our repetitions. Wood. Going to be... That's the right one. Bring this back to 0. Enter. opacity, and we're going to cut out height blending. I mean, you can add other objects too. There we go. Make it a gold bridge. Not bad. Let's mess with the height on the brick. We're going to bring down our blend radius. We're not going to wrap it. We're not going to blur. We're not going to set the offset. The height frequency we are going to mess with. Just play with it till you get what you like. Wood plank. I'm going to grab goldish, drop it down there. Keep in mind when you have the wood, we're going to shut these down. Jump back into the wood. Bring up the opacity. No height blending. We want it all just to be the same color here. Repetitions on X. And rotate it depending on what you want, but let's mess with the height frequency just a smidge. Not bad. Not bad at all. Again, this is just a quick tutorial. What else did I have? I had brick, wood. Oh yeah, wood. Let's get rid of wood here. Delete that layer. We're going to add no idea. Drag wood down to the bottom. Tiling. All right. Metalness. keep the displacement where it's at. In fact, we could probably get rid of it. Roughness isn't bad. Normals are there. Don't need opacity. Don't need AO, but it's probably good that we do have it. Let's try rotating the wood and bringing up the repetitions of the wood. There we go. Wood's dark, not bad. There we go. And just play around with the settings for a little bit. So this, instead of having this all blue, I should do this another color. Again, we can mess around with it, but this is just a tutorial to get you adjusted into it. In the next tutorial, I'll just be doing mixer tutorials after this. Like the offset and which way these go. Like, we know these are all going in one direction, but right here, I can tell right off the bat, this is the same as this, and it's the way that we unwrapped it. Same with this. And we want this to go up and down. So what you would do is you would rotate it once again, and then you would have to bring up and down the repetitions depending on what you're trying to do. Let's just get into this now. And then same, you just want to look for where they're stretching. It's a minor convenience, but it is what it is. Also, another thing that you can do is you can add in a paint object and just start coloring over, and it'll pull the textures themselves. What you do want to be careful of, though, is roughness, displacement. We'll do displacement right here. There. We'll color that in. The desert road, we'll do this. And you can actually, inside Mixer, tweak with this is our displacement map. I just hit the letter 5 or the number 5 there. And just do one at a time. Take your time with it. Have that all messed up. But once you're done, you can do export. We'll do specular maps. No, we won't. We'll do metalness maps. That way it's a little bit more shiny. And again, you can really just, cutting out the displacement and the AO. You can do AO as well. Not bad for the time being. Again, if things aren't even, you're going to have to end up using more colors. More colors is more time. But another thing that you can do is you can choose them at bits and pieces and then composite them on top of each other. Overall, I mean, if you have a pretty straightforward model that isn't, the more detailed it's going to get, the less room you're going to have to work with. Cool. We're going to export to disk. Export location to C. I already forgot what I put it underneath. Training. There we go. Select folder. And it exports all of them. Now we can jump into this. We'll do a new material. Underneath base color, it'll be an image. New. Oh, no. Open. See, training. Don't export the model. I mean, you could export the model too if you want to. Export to disk. Open. See. AK elemental PQRS training. Bridge 1 and do Z render. I'm sorry, material preview. And there it is. If you want to get the rest of the maps in there. So that's basically the first tutorial. Play around with it, get used to it, start making objects. I mean, this is pretty detailed for a beginner thing, so I'd actually call this moderate. But if you got through this far, you know, well, what the heck, we'll go into shading. And what shading does is it chooses the different channels. So Shift and D, Shift and D. If you want to do the normal map, do Shift, oops, sorry. And up here, Smart Screencast, boom. Shift and A, add. We're going to do a vector, and this does all your bump map, your displacement, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do normal map. Oh, that's normal. Shift A, vector, normal map. Shift and A. We had normal map, and then I'm having a brain fart here. Vector, bump map. And this one we're going to open, and this is going to be our displacement. Our displacement goes right into the height. And the normal goes into the normal. And then just bring in your normal map right here. And then connect this normal to this normal. Now again, this is pretty, oh my god, that's so rough. You're gonna want to mess with it. This is what we drew on there. Definitely makes it a lot easier. You can, for all intents and purposes, actually start drawing on in Mixer and do it all yourself. Just make sure to uncheck all the ones that don't want to use. Okay, so we opened up that. Now we got displacement would be our height map. Our AO, albedo, metalness, and roughness. That is not our normal. We want to go into roughness for this one. Normal here. That's our roughness. Shiny wood-like. Let's shift A, add a point light, G on the X. And we're just going to bring up that power real quick so we can kind of get a better idea. Shift and D on the Y, I'm sorry, on the Z. Shift and D on the X, Shift and D on the X. G on the Z. Alright, click on that again. And let's throw the color into the metalness, wherever that may have gone. Okay, so metalness goes into metallic. Open, and you just want to choose metalness. So notice how it looks a lot different. That's why you want to kind of mess around with it and Mixer a little bit more. But there's all the details that weren't showing up in Mixer. As for right here, I'll kind of go back into what I was talking about. So we know these are going in one direction where these are going in another direction. These are going up and down, these are going left and right. If we want these to go left and right, all we would do is change these to a different color ID. And then just rotate them and try to line them up. After a while, it gets pretty simple to do, but that's basically it. You just created a model and textured it. I was thinking about doing tutorials. I don't know. What would you think of the tutorial? Was it too long? What was hard about it? Just throw in your comments below. Again, this is kind of messy at the end. We're not going to totally touch this up just yet. That'll be another tutorial. This tutorial took me about, after all the editing and everything, I want to say a good 4 days. But after that, we'll get into touching up our models in the next tutorial. Probably give me about another week. But have fun, mess around with it, see what you can do, explore. And again, when you're in Mixer and you're choosing underneath the local library, don't drag it and put it over anymore into the layers. Now there's like a bug where it just doesn't show up. Oh, good. Yeah, that one wants to show up. Anyways, if you have a problem and it's not showing up, just click once on the left mouse button. Alright. Well, thank you again, and much appreciated. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. I know I said it a million times, but really trying to hit 1,000. I'd definitely appreciate it if you could help me get there. That's my goal. Take care, guys.